Yo, welcome to Footballology. My name is Mike. Today, I want to talk a little bit about some of the top receiving prospects coming into this year. As you can see, I got my New York Giants stuff on, represent Odell Beckham and all the success that he had this past season. I hope him more success in the future. But getting to my top five, number five, I got Green-Beckham. I know a lot of people like him as the third best receiver. I mean, just based off his size and all his skill sets, he is the third best receiver. But then you kind of start dropping him because of the off the field stuff. And a lot of teams are starting to get scared away because you look at a guy like Josh Gordon, all the talent in the world. If he worked and honed in on his craft and stayed out of trouble, easily a top three, top five receiver in this league. So with Green Beckham, those are some things that a lot of teams are might starting to veer away from. So you might not see him go until the second day just because of those off the field things. But as a receiver, just on the field, his natural abilities are just out there. They're crazy. I mean, he can high point the ball with the best. He can run the routes. I'm not a big fan of his route running. I don't think he has the most polished tree, the most polished route tree. But with his size and his skills that it would allow him enough time to grow as a receiver to get his tree down to the point where he can start to hit some of those intermediate and those coming across the middle routes, and obviously he can take the top off the defense. But me personally, I just feel like a number five out of this receiving group is really where he needs to be, just because we didn't get to see any film from this year. And I know there's a lot of guys that had the off the field issues that we didn't have that previous year film on, like a Tyrann Matthews or a Robert Quinn, just to name a couple. But they still came in the league and had success. I just feel like that he's a day two guy. You're gonna get all the talent in the world as long as you put him in the right situation to succeed. Then you won't have any big problems. Moving on to number four, Chris Conley is another guy that I feel like he has a really good upside, but I feel like it's going to take a lot of coaching, and his surroundings are going to have to be with the best of them. And it's hopefully he just gets drafted to the right situation where he has a quarterback that would allow him to grow. Because sometimes the receiver can have all the talent in the world, but if the quarterback is not as good as the quarterback needs to be, then that receiver starts to kind of fall underneath, and people start to question: is he good or is he not? What's this? What's that? Oh, now this team needs to draft a new receiver. But with him, Chris Conley, I just definitely feel like he needs to have that quarterback that would allow him to grow and to talk to him and help him on his route tree, help him kind of grasp what he does. He's pretty decent at high pointing the ball, definitely good at taking the top off the defense. I just don't. And when it comes to receivers, for me, he has all the height and the size, but I just don't care for his tree. Like his route tree is just not as crisp as some of the other guys coming out this draft. But Chris Conley at number four, I feel like is good. I know a lot of people feel like Devontae Parker belongs there, but I like Conley a little bit better just based off his combine numbers, and hopefully he gets with the right coaching staff and can take his game to the next level. And number four, I got Jalen Strong. Once again, he all the size, like all these receivers have great size. I'm just throw that out there. Like it's hard to come across a receiver in this draft class that doesn't have that prototypical NFL size. Jalen Strong is just another one of the guys on the list. Much more polished route tree, and I think he can make all the catches. Like he definitely can come in for some teams right now. He can even come in for the Chiefs and be the number one receiver, and day one ready to go, and have really good success. I definitely feel like that the biggest thing with him is probably his press, and if he's going to be able to break away from the press and get open and actually create separation in the open field. But other than that, I definitely feel like he's one of the better polished receivers in this draft class. Number two, now this is when it gets tricky, and I know a lot of people are starting to like, oh, whoa, Kevin White. Kevin White's still number two for me, and the reason why I say Kevin White's number two to me is I'm not a big fan of the one hit. I'm not gonna say one hit wonder guys because he's not that, but I'm not a big fan of the guys that just kind of pop out of nowhere. He did have a great combine. Don't get me wrong. He had an amazing combine. He did everything he was supposed to in between. I watched some of the film. I watched everything I could on him. His route tree is immaculate. It's perfect. And with his frame and his size, he know how to use it with the best of the team, like the best of the people in the NFL right now. He high points the ball with the best. His tree is perfect. His tree is completely grown, if that makes sense. Like his tree is just at where it needs to be. It has all the water, all the nutrients that it needs, and it's a big, strong tree. And I definitely feel like that he's another guy that could come in day one and demand double team coverage just because of what Odell Beckham did last year. You don't take these rookies lightly, and just the rookie class in general. I'm not going to just talk about Odell Beckham, but with Kevin White, that 4.3 speed that he put out on the field showed a lot that he had and excited a lot of teams. So, I mean, we might end up seeing him going in the top. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if him or Amari Cooper went to Tennessee. And obviously, Amari Cooper is my number one. Going on to my number one, Amari Cooper has it all for me. Now, I am a big fan of a 6'2 plus receiver, but, Amari Cooper 6'1, who cares? The dude plays the game big. Something else, I'm sorry, I didn't mention about Kevin White. About Kevin White that Amari Cooper doesn't have, which is a chip. Kevin White does play with a chip. With his size, he plays really feisty and really angry. And that's something that you also take into consideration. It's a real big plus, but it also can be a negative at times. If people start to get in his ear, you start to get a little frazzled. But other than that, the dude plays with nothing but passion, and that's something you definitely want on your team. With Amari Cooper, I think Amari Cooper is one of those guys that you talk trash to, he's going to look at you and say, okay, and then beat you for 50 yards down the field, and then make you look stupid on national TV. I just feel like Amari Cooper, once again, his tree is polished, crisp. I mean, it's strong. It's another strong tree. And he can run all the routes in between, short, intermediate, hitch routes, screenplays, whatever you need from him, he would do it. And that's one of the guys you do on your team. And that's something I look at, and that separates him between Kevin White. I'm not saying Kevin White wouldn't do all those things, but I definitely feel like with Amari Cooper, you would get a complete player that can literally start day one. And, I mean, all these guys can start day one, but I'm a huge fan of Amari Cooper, and I think that has a lot to do with what Julio Jones did when he came out of Alabama. Because once again, when Julio came out of Alabama, it was like, well, Julio Jones has all the numbers, but his stats wasn't as beautiful as a lot of guys. And I just feel like Amari Cooper is in that same boat just because Alabama is not a throw first team. But I'm a big fan of Amari Cooper. I would hate for him to go to Oakland. If he goes to Oakland, I might shed a tear or two just because we have to play him and Khalil Mack 2 times a year, and that would just scare the dog piss out of me. Like, it would just scare me because these guys are great athletes, and to have to play them 2 times a year would just be more stressful. But anyways, sorry to take up your time, but that's all I had. This is Footballology. Stay safe and be safe.